And ride with me in my foul life.
It's the springtime. Duck season is gone. I think that even the spring conservation depredation season for snow geese is coming to an end. I know that a lot of my buddies up in Canada, Saskatchewan and Ontario and Alberta are getting ready to get after the wily snow goose as they make their way back north on the reverse migration. But for a lot of us, it's starting to be that time of year where we look for a different kind of roost, where we look for one of them big gobblers to leave the field and fly up into a tree. And then we get back underneath that tree or somewhere in the remote. There it is. He's showing it right now. The remote area. We're looking for one of them to gobble, one of them to give it up, come in there. We're going to go over all kinds of decoy setups today and what's the best, especially early season. How do you trick a big gobbler? Is it with a hen? Is it a laydown hen? Is it a Jake attacking a hen? Is it a Jake by himself? Is it a fanned out gobbler? What are we going to learn today on another episode of the Foul Life Podcast, brought to you by our friends again at Gerber Gear, the sharpest knives in America. Stay sharp, America. We carry a Gerber in our pants pocket, our toolbox, our blind bag, everywhere in our trucks, our boats, our UTVs, our ATVs, wherever you find us building blinds or cutting meat off the bone, you're going to find us with the Gerber. We never leave home without it. And my guest today has a lot of experience with cutting meat off the bone because this man lives off the land, whether he's after the white-tailed deer or whether he's after these wild turkeys or some fish, probably crappie down where he lives. Phillip Culpepper, my man, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing? Everything was spot on except the fish part. I love to eat fish, but man, I suck at catching fish.
Yeah, but I think everybody kind of does, and they just get lucky once in a while. That's how I make excuses for myself because I can't catch them very good either.
I consider myself the Instagram fisherman because if I catch one, I'll take a picture of it just to put it on Instagram. As far as catching enough, don't depend on me.
Now, is this for all types, or do you ever get offshore? Is it bass? Is it crappie, or what? It don't matter.
Yeah, pretty much. I suck at pretty much all of it, but I do some offshore stuff with my dad. I'll go once or twice a year. He loves going in there for the snapper season, so I'm gonna try to. I have a little more time this summer. Hopefully, I'm gonna try to go down there. But like I said, I love eating all kind of fish. As far as me gathering it, if I ever invite you to a fish fry, I take it as an insult.
Now, that's one thing I am envious of where you live is the fish fry. And I know they get them, Wisconsin is a pretty popular area for a walleye fish fry, but a real fish fry is pretty much the South and Southeast with some hush puppies, some crappie, maybe some bluegill, maybe catfish for sure. I'm a huge fan of fish fries, mainly because of the camaraderie. The food is always good, especially in the South, depending on what kind of batter and seasoning I'm a Tony's guy. Are you a Tony's guy?
Man, I can put some seasoning salt on fish, have a ball. So I'm not real picky when it comes to that, but I love any kind of fried fish. I love it.
All right. I gotta ask you a question before I get into this turkey season, what you've experienced so far. And I think you've been to Florida, Georgia, and maybe Alabama, maybe Mississippi already, but we're going to get into that in a second. But our mutual friend, you've known him a lot longer than I have personally, Mr. Michael Waddell, has come into the podcast realm with a unbelievable title, A Bone to Pick. It matches Waddell because of the Bone Collector brand, his ability to have a conversation or dissect an argument or, speak the truth. And then it also has the word pick in it. And he's a big music guy. So guitar pick is in there a little bit also. Why did it take this man so long to get into the game? Because we both know he can talk. Is this correct?
Oh, no doubt about it. I think it's I'm sure it's come up in the past, and then it's just the next day, nobody followed up on it. Because Michael as well as I do, you got to pin him down and say, all right, if we're doing it, we got to do it. So it's one of them things you got to have him cornered into it. And again, I think it's something once he gets going, he's going to even like it more than he does now. And I think it's right up his alley. I mean, he ought to knock it out of the park.
I think he will. I listened to the first episode with Tyler Jordan, and Michael's just good. He's just a good interviewer, good talker all the way around. That doesn't matter. But I was just wondering, I'm pretty sure we'll be seeing you come on there pretty soon, I'd imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, well, hopefully so. And I feel bad because I've been so busy in the turkey woods since the 1st of March. I hadn't even listened to it. We've been burning it up pretty hard, but it's Michael is definitely, you know, he'll tell you this. He's metamorphosized more into that Nugent type mindset where he gets fired up and he doesn't hold back. So he, you know, when he gets on a topic that he's passionate about, he's going to tell you how it is.
Exactly. I like that about him. So have you hunted every day since it opened in Florida pretty much?
We've had a couple of days we haven't. I mean, we've hunted when we could. We started out our original spot in Florida. We had 2 different spots going to, and we had about a 2-day break in between those because my dad and our buddy from up around in Onyx, Jared, he came down from Montana, and they killed within the first hour of each other. So we had too much time was slotted in for those 2 birds they had. But pretty much, yeah, we've either been hunting or going to where we're going to be hunting every day since it came in on March. You know, we left March 4th. So since then, we've been at it pretty hard. And
is Osceola, is it the only turkey species in the state of Florida?
No, there's Easterns here too. We're right below the line of where the Easterns are at. And but Osceola they're down here in this southern part, you know, that's the only spot you can find them. So that's why, you know, it's about like, you know, these guys, some of these outfitters and guys around here, man, that and it's crazy because there's some guys that have just cattle ranches. They're not even outfitters, and they'll sell hunts because it's the only place you can get them. And it's like an elk hunt, you know, it's just such a prized possession because that's what everybody's got to have one to finish their slam.
Yeah. And it is the only state that has an Osceola, correct?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So if you're looking at a map of Florida, I assume everybody listening to this knows where Florida is, but where are we talking where the Osceolas start as far as the state goes? You're on the state line of Alabama or Georgia right now, or you're in Florida on the line right below where the Easterns are. So you're down where the Osceolas start?
Yeah, we're down below Orlando. So, you know, it's funny because I talked to Michael about this the other day about you know, it's kind of like the Rios and the Merriams out in Nebraska. Some of them get mixed, you know. And I believe the line that NWTF recognizes is around Gainesville. So we're well below that. But, you know, there's some people say, well, man, unless you got to really be down there in the south in the swamp to get a true Osceola. And like I said, the further north you get, obviously, the more of a mixture you're going to get. But not only that, you know, you may be on a piece of property where you could call up an Eastern, and then the next field over, you could call up a true Osceola. It's just the more they kind of get blended. But, you know, if you get down, you know, around, you know, below where we're at now, or actually I would say about the line we're at now, you know, the Kissimmee area to where you come on down south, it's solid, you know, true Osceolas.
And so you're saying Gainesville is about where they start though?
I think that's what the NWTF line is, what they recognize.
And and how far is Gainesville from Orlando?
I'll be honest with you, buddy. I don't have a clue.
I don't either.
South. I think Gainesville's probably a little bit east of us and north. So, but they, you know, again, I think it's just you get a mixture. You could get a hybrid, you could get an Eastern, or you could get an Osceola.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. So Orlando's just a tiny bit north of Kissimmee, and Gainesville's a good bit north and a little bit west of Orlando.
Mm-hmm. So like I said, I think we're in pretty solid Osceola country down here now. And where the first spot we came early season in the southern zone, that was, you know, we were down below Immokalee, so that was way down.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. So Okeechobee, you got to go right up through Okeechobee and then get up into. Do you think that the Osceolas get that far south, all the way down into them woods around around Okeechobee?
Oh yeah, well, they're all the way down in the Everglades.
They're all the way down to the Everglades.
Yeah, because like I said, if you'll zoom in down there, there's a little town called Immokalee. We were way down there, and it's right before you dump off into nothing but swamp.
Damn.
And I hunted last year down at Big Cypress, the public land down there, and that was desolate down there. It was nothing but swamp, and you know, it's just they got to be a tough bird to survive all that mess.
Yeah, for sure, and Is there a county there that's actually called Osceola County?
Yeah, we're in that county right now.
You're in there right now.
Yep, we're in Osceola County. I didn't even realize until we got here. We ran into a guy. We had to stop and get a little stool, a filming stool. Drake had busted his other one, and he had told us, yeah, y'all are going to be in Osceola County. So to get one in Osceola County would be pretty cool.
Man, I think that'd be awesome. So when it comes to the table fare of the wild turkey, like I can tell the difference between a white-tailed deer steak and a mule deer steak. Can you tell it all traveling for the Osceola, the Eastern, the Rio, the Miriams, the four? Those are the four in the continental United States. Then you have the Golds and the Oscillated in Mexico, which would complete the World Slam, correct?
Right.
Can you tell as much turkey as I assume you've eaten, Culpepper? Can you tell the difference in meat?
You know, I honestly, I haven't, but I prepare it. I try to let it, you know, which again, you know, that turkey breast is, you know, obviously I'm not telling you nothing about to come to birds, but it's a pretty tender meat for a bird, you know. But I mean, it's, you know, and again, I soak it in homemade ranch dressing and pickle juice for a day, and then I throw it in the fryer or else I grill it. So, I mean, I can't, I mean, it's all good to me. So, I mean, I'm sure you get up in some of them corn-fed states, you know, it's like you say, it's kind of like a deer that grew up on alfalfa. You can tell a little bit of a difference. But growing up in the South, I mean, you know, we were, it was pretty much acorn-fed turkeys what we were eating. So it's all about the same to me.
So the strategy of this going into an early season turkey hunt, let's stick with the Eastern. Let's stick with your home state, and let's stick with the areas of the Georgia, the Alabama, maybe Mississippi. It's been said, I've heard Waddell say it, I think I've heard you talk about it, that the toughest turkeys in the country are Georgia and Alabama. Is this true? Is it still stand true? And is it because of pressure, they just get educated faster, or what makes that statement true if it is?
No, I believe so. And it was interesting. We just came from Mississippi, and our buddy Jared over there with Nichols, he's trying to get he's with Bushnell. He's documenting, and he got his first one with Michael, the Osceola. He's documenting this year getting a slam. You know, that they're doing a lot of behind the scenes hunting with different people. So, and I told him, and even he was telling me as soon as we got in camp, he said, man, Michael told me this is going to be the toughest one because he was going for my Eastern. And I said, man, we may kill one in the first hour. I said, but on paper, an Eastern and the what I call the backwards L of Georgia, Alabama, you know, even South Carolina, North Carolina, Mississippi, even over in Louisiana, you get down that far south, man, they're just it's like they got a different sixth sense. I don't know. It's weird. I think it's a mixture between. There are a lot of turkey hunters from the South, you know, and a lot of these turkeys get a lot of pressure. I know for sure in Alabama and Georgia, the turkey numbers aren't what they used to be. So not only do you not have as much opportunity to chase one, but you know, those ones that are there are probably getting chased more and more and hearing a call more and more. So it is that they're, in my opinion, the toughest birds, you know, personality wise, and just terrain wise to find, because, you know, you get, you know, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, some of those places where it's just big hardwood bottoms, you can't go check fields. You can't glass them and find them. They just, you know, but you got to pretend like there's one behind every tree if you're going, you know, kill them consistently. You just got to stay after them.
Yeah, I love that mindset, because you just never know. You just never know when that personality might change and they might give it up, or you're going to get something that's going to make you say, all right, we got one struck, we're going to get on him. But I've hunted them in Illinois, Missouri, Kentucky. Kentucky turkeys are almost like Kansas turkeys a lot of the times that I've been there. Not saying that there's not great turkey hunters from the state of Kentucky. I'm saying that the turkeys have just given it up when I've been in that state. Illinois, Missouri, same thing. I mean, I'm talking like give it up. But man, it just seems Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, that line right there. I've never hunted them in North or South Carolina, but that line that you said is part of that backwards L, they got it. It's a weird phenomenon to me that it's the same species, But it's like ducks. If you go and you get ducks that are pressured there, and there's a bunch more duck hunters, in parts of the South and Southeast, they're going to be a little bit more educated by the time they get down there. The turkey phenomenon is they're not migrating all the way down these migratory routes and getting decoyed or shot at the whole way until they get to Mississippi, Alabama, or Georgia. So it's crazy that they would be that much tougher just because of the landscape that they were born in. It's nuts. It's got, the only thing that you can attribute it to is the amount of pressure. But then again, the other part of the phenomenon is it's private property. So it seems like you'd be able to manage your turkey flock like you would your deer herd. All of this is mixed into this phenomenon that I wanted to get at with you of that area of our country and why it's so tough to consistently kill birds in those 3 states. And now you say 2 more with the Carolinas.
Well, and again, and I think the further you go up, the if you want to call it easier they get, you look at even like deer hunting in the South. I mean, it's tough. I attribute a lot of that to obviously pressure. And again, the terrain, there's not just not every place, but there's not just a hardcore food source like Iowa with a cornfield or something in most areas, and they're a lot scattered. The wind obviously with deer is a big factor because there's never a consistent wind down here. So, but again, back to the turkeys, it's just, I don't know, man. It's honestly like their own separate subspecies, it seems like, because, you can go, and a prime example was when Drake Land came down. This is his 3rd year. He comes and pretty much lives with me in the spring. He's coming from Iowa. And he was like, man, this, and they have Easterns. It's like, it doesn't even make sense. He goes, this is like a whole different breed of turkey. And, but again, there's still those days that it's maybe a 3 or 4 day window here and there. And it may be smaller than that. It gets down to, I think, when the sun comes out, it may be an hour or 2 window. You can just, you can, if you stay after them, you can wear them out and do damage on them. But you got to have that dedication to just grinding it out, not expecting success and think it through and execute whenever you do find it, but back to your point of like the Kentucky stuff, I think the population has a big factor in that, because you think of Kentucky, if you yelp down in the bottom, 4 long bears may hear you and 2 of them strike, and then that's the ones you work up and call. Well, down here, you may only have 1 every 3 bottoms, to where, and again, that less of turkeys too is, a long bear down here may have 20 hens with him. So, it's versus if you got more long bears, obviously you're going to have better odds. But I think socially, they're out there seeking more than they are turkeys around here, because they kind of got their own little group and they know every hen that there is. So, I think it just, you compile all that together, and it's a tough scenario.
Well, that brings me to my next question, Culpepper, is when you start talking about when they're henned up, you hear turkey hunters say, well, they're still on the hens. When they're on the hens and they fly off that roost and there's already a bunch of hens down there picking bugs and in the grass and he's showing off and strutting a little bit, to me, that's not the most optimal time to be trying to call up a turkey. Now, I'm not saying that you're not going to strike him and he's not going to come over there, but isn't it when you start talking early season and they are on the hens a lot more, do they start to get off the hens as the season matures? Or is that kind of the consistency through the nature of turkey season, is that they're always, because we are truly reversing nature, right? As a turkey hunter, we're showing off and bringing the hen to us, when in reality, in the real world, in the woods, in Mother Nature, the hen comes to the gobbler.
Right. And that's the whole point of him sitting up there gobbling in the mornings, them hens, because I can't tell you how many times, people always talk about overcalling, to a turkey on the roost. He's going to sit up there and gobble. And a lot of times I've sat there till 2 hours after daylight, and he's sitting there waiting on that hen. He's saying, well, if you call him, if you want it that bad, then and he'll sit up there with the best vantage point and wait on her to pitch down there to him. And I've literally sat there on a turkey that's gobbling, and a hen that you don't even think's in the world, an hour later come walking by you and walk right up to him, and he don't say another word. But yeah, you are reversing nature. But again, I think staying with it and learning from that is, especially in the South, is you've got to know when you can get in there and get it done, to where when those hens, the later in the spring it gets, when they start going and setting on nest, because once they lay an egg, they'll go lay an egg a day, is what they say. So once they do that, they go and leave them that turkey may be out there strutting. He's got 10 hens at the first hour of daylight. He's strutting and strutting. If you've ever seen him this time of year, as he's out there spinning around, they'll start just drifting off one and one. Before you know it, he ain't got a hen. Or then that's when he's out there trying to figure out what's going on. He's trying to find them, and that's when they get killed. But there is a lot of times I think you got to let it play out in the mornings. I love hunting the afternoons because you can find them by themselves and strike them up and get them fired up and get them going. But, I would say I bet 10% of the hunts we have success on come off a turkey off the roost, just because they kind of do that social thing in the morning. They all do kind of get together, and when not saying you're not going to kill one in the morning, because obviously there's turkeys that ain't got hens in the morning, but when they're really at the beginning of the season, they're really courting them hens, and they're roosting right there with them, and they're breeding them every day to where it's tough. You got the odds stacked against you. There ain't no doubts about that.
So the timing of when people say, well, Belding, when do you like to get after mallard ducks? And I tell them my favorite, they're like, what are you talking about? You got to be out there, in the dark and freezing and setting up decoys. I said, no, man, I get out there about 9 and get a good spread, see what the wind's shifting to, get that sunshine at my back. And the mallards start moving around because you could, say that it's for a lot of reasons, whether it's a food source, whether it's the moon phase, whether it's the temperature, whether it's the amount of hens in the area, whether they're out in their migration route. There's a reason why mallards are going to get up and they might move around a little bit later in the day. Another big part of it is the idea of being nocturnal, where they might have fed during the night and then rested all morning, and now they're getting up to stretch their wings out a little bit. With turkey hunting, I've always had the most fun, and I think that that's what we have to remember, that when you get to be my age and you're a little bit younger than me, Waddell's a little bit older than me, we still have a blast, and that's what it's all about. The most fun that I have in the turkey woods, Culpepper, is like that 10-2 range, and I'm picturing what you just said of they just start to the hens start to just they get out of the way, they start to walk away from the tom. He's out there spinning around. All of a sudden, he's like, whoa, what just happened? So he's like, well, I'll just go take a nap. I already bred 3 or 4 of you this morning. I'll just go take a nap. And then he gets in there and he hears that, and you strike him up like that. And so is that right? That what I'm picturing is like, oh, there is another one out here. I'm going to go check that out. And now here we go, reversing Mother Nature again. And now we try to intercept him. Like we hear him, we try to cut the distance, and then we hit him again. And at that time, I want you to talk about keeping in mind that it might have only took one note from your hidden slate call or your mouth diaphragm call to get him coming your direction. So you always got to be focused forward and watching your steps and talking quiet and not running around like a madman. So tell me about that of getting in those woods a little bit later. Is it okay to do that? And do you like that time frame of 10-2?
Yeah, and I mean, and that's like you said. One of my biggest sayings is don't panic. Just nobody panic, nobody freak out. To where, I mean, me personally, yes, I love hunting afternoons. Now, granted, I'm still going to go in the morning. I just soon go try to kill one in the morning and go kill another one in the afternoon. So, but that being said, is because the morning, you got to keep in mind the turkey, because if they say it this time of year, a lot of times they're henned up and they might not say nothing all day. So if they're within hens all day before they start setting. So in the morning when he's up there gobbling on a limb, that's his most. If in my mind, when I'm trying to play chess with one and without even calling to him on my setup and the terrain and working the lay of the land is, to me, that's as important as calling, being able to be a good caller, a decent caller, to where that's even more important. So when he's up there gobbling at daylight, he's at the most vulnerable state of he's not going anywhere. You may get 7 or 8 gobbles, you may get 2 or 3, or you may get 80 if he's fired up, to where that 15, 20 minutes when he starts cranking off, he's stationary. He's not going anywhere, and you can lay your best hand down to try to play it. So that's why I think in the mornings are so crucial, because it's not that they're not killable without hens, but if you just pay attention to, even that's where preseason scouting, because everybody wants to talk about early season, is go out there and listen to them, what they're doing. Don't make a call, just listen to what they're doing and which way those hens are naturally moving, which way that he's gobbling with those hens. And then whenever you go in there to hunt him, put yourself in position to where they're going to come that way. So, but again, it is fun in the afternoon. Yeah, I love hunting afternoons. I'll hunt daylight to dark. And that action-packed striking a turkey, he may run you over, or we may be here for 2 hours having to work him and try to work him in the range. You never know. But that's the beauty of turkey hunting. But yeah, you got to be ready to where, I mean, when they lose those hens, anything's possible. I've seen them literally gobble one time, and I've seen them not even say a word. You yelp, and you can look for 400 yards, and they're at a dead run as fast as they can run, coming right to you.
God, it gets me excited listening to you talk like that. Same kind of mindset, Culpepper, with decoys. Is when I go do a seminar or somebody asks me about decoying waterfowl, there's a lot of different reasoning why you pick the amount of decoys, the species of decoys, the posture of your decoys. Do you mix Canada geese with mallard ducks? Do you mix snow geese with this? Do you mix speckled bellies with this? Can you have pintails with mallards? There's all sorts of strategy, and that's what we love about this game. I don't really like to say it's a sport. I think of it more of a culture and a lifestyle, but I just love the idea of breaking it down like a college football analyst would or something, saying, all right, well, this is why we're going to do this. And this is why we did this. And you see that our success came. Here's why we weren't successful. We didn't think about this one key component. So when I go out there this early in the season, are you going to be successful with a strutter? Do you want to lay down hen like she's breedable? Do you want to stand up hen like she's flirtatious? Do you want to Jake like he's ready to get his butt kicked because that big boy's coming in there and he's the big man on campus? What talk to me in segments of season now of what you start with, or is it stay the same, or is it just a game time decision that morning?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm a half to 3/4 strut Jake decoy guy. I'm not big on hens necessarily. I'm not, and again, that may be just a lot of people have had success with that, with a lay down hen with a Jake over on top of her, but me, what all we carry and all the camera equipment, everything we're going, and like you said, when it's the panic mode of getting in and out, noise and carrying stuff, if I set a decoy out, it's going to be just like a little old Jake to put out. And then I've got my strutter decoy that's just like a shield that I keep beside me, and I lay down to where if I need it, I can. But a lot of times you can close the deal with that Jake to where if he's going to come to it. But then if they hang up, you got that decoy, you can kind of show them a fan and create some movement and entice them to come in. But what I have learned, and I was talking to Michael about it last year, I was like, man, you got to try it, because it was the first time I'd done it a couple years ago and it worked. And then I was like, man, this is really, really working, to where, say a turkey was over a knob, hung up, and obviously we try to get most everything on video. So if I go up there and try to get him and show him a decoy, well, it was always a hustle of keeping the decoy up and getting back and getting set up, trying to get him on camera. But for whatever reason, I've seen them come 100 yards to that strutter decoy. And when they top the hill, as soon as they see that little submissive half strut Jake, it's like they forget that I'm even there with that strutter, and they just go into attack mode to where they're just going to attack him. And I think that's just because like I said, it's kind of a passive. His head's colored up, but he's not like, hey, I'm the big dog on campus here. And so I've always just been that little Jake type guy if I use a decoy. A lot of times, especially if a turkey's been hunting, or, sometimes, a lot of times on public land or stuff, I won't use a decoy at all. We'll just try to get in position and just try to, back down on the call and some. But if we're taking folks a lot of time who's never been to where, and a lot of times kids, I like to have a Jake where they're coming to attack them, to where you can say, look, that's where your shot's going to be. 80% of the chance that's going to be your shot right there. And again, it's just to play it. Some of it's a gut decision, and it's interesting because 2 days ago, we had this turkey in Mississippi for Jared. He was out there strutting with hens. Well, I'll take it back. We saw him. He's just pecking around with the hens, just like he's not even interested. So we get in position. I start yelping to him. He's 200 yards. He starts gobbling, strutting, won't come. So I showed him my little strutter decoy. And, man, he folded up and was like getting out of town. And so I was like, daggum. So I took it down. He goes over there, finally calms down, comes back out 20 minutes later, start yelping to him. He starts strutting again and gobbling. So we get in position, go down there, get to where he has to come looking for us. He gets fired up, comes up there to 35 yards. we had some miscommunication. Turkey didn't get shot. He starts putting and goes back down there with his hens. So we gave him 15, 20 minutes and got him fired up again. And I go in and use my strutter decoy again and got to within about 60 yards and showed it to him. And he acted like he was an 8-year-old turkey coming just on a warpath. So that being said, that's 3 different instances with one turkey. So to me, that's a proven point in their mind is, first, every turkey's got his bubble. Second, if a lot of people, if they bump turkeys, my rule of thumb is if you don't see them fly off, just give him 15 minutes because a turkey's got a pea-sized brain. If you'll just give him 15, 20 minutes, the odds of you getting back on them are pretty dang good. And again, some of them, they're going to come into attack mode. Some of them aren't. But this turkey, being early season, I think those full-blown strutter decoys can be intimidating at times because right now is when they're just kind of establishing their pecking order, where some of these turkeys, these 2-year-olds, maybe 3-year-olds, they just got their butt whooped. So they're going to be terrified of a strutter decoy. So that's why I've always just tried to stick with that little 3/4 strut Jake that's kind of passive. And if I need to use a strutter, I'll just keep it by my side and I'll kind of show it to them if I need to, if that makes sense.
So when you start talking about the 3/4 strutter and the Jake, you're still hidden calling. So just because they can't see her doesn't mean she's not there. That's obviously what you're telling me, because we've been in public woods for mallard ducks in the public flooded timber of Arkansas or in private without a decoy one. And they come in there with reckless abandon because they're hunting them up and they're not even looking for other ducks. They just hear the sound. That's why the best duck callers in the world come from the state of Arkansas, because they had to be trained their entire lives that if you want to kill ducks, you better be sounding like ducks from a long ways away and as they get closer. That's right. Because when you look down in those woods from above, it's really hard to see duck decoys in the first place. So I've always called it an audio game when it comes to calling mallard ducks in Arkansas because of the flooded timber. Well, we're hunting in timber and turkey too. A lot of trees. It's thick. She could be anywhere. Just because he can't see her doesn't mean she's not there. So you're saying that Jake is there as kind of an interceptor of like, now that big Tom that's coming knows she's around because he hears her, but he sees him. He's going to key in on him because he wants to kick his butt to not just show off for her, but to get her in the end.
Right. And like I said, he's that little passive, he's kind of the decoys I like kind of got their head tucked a little bit like they may be going strut, but they're not real sure. To me, that's more of a fail proof, if you will, than a full strut. Because the turkey may come around the corner over hill and be like, holy cow, what have I done got myself into? And he might have just got his butt whooped an hour ago. So, but you brought up a good point about the calling. I think, there are a lot of good turkey hunters from the South. And I think this because they've learned to play the game to where volume, to me, is key in turkey hunting, to where you gotta, it's no different than talking to somebody. If you're yelling at somebody across this lake over here, well, then they're coming around by the truck. You're not just going to keep the same volume. You're not just going to keep yelling. You're going about, man, what the hell is going on? Why are you yelling at me? And so turkeys are the same way. Once I get them struck and gobbling, I try to keep the volume just enough where they can hear me. And that adjusts every step they take. You got to gear it back to where once you get to a point of them spitting and drumming, you can hear them drumming coming in and can't see them. A lot of times I'll just move my feet a little bit or some scratching in the leaves, and that'll be enough to seal the deal because, again, we're reversing nature, and the point of having a hen out too, back to the decoys, is I have had a lot of turkeys where you can see a long way. They'll see a hen where they may come to 80 yards and just hang up and just sit there and strut for an hour, back and forth, spitting and drumming, because people got to remember when they get in that tight, when he's spitting and drumming, that's just as good as a gobble to a hen because that's his way of calling her in whenever they're close. So he's sitting out there doing that, saying, well, okay, we'll just come right over here. That's some of the problems I've had with hens in the past is it's not a finisher. It's not quite a closer enough. It's good from a distance, but a lot of times, unless they're just kamikaze turkeys, they'll hang up out there just out of gun range.
Oh, I get it. So you are reversing nature. He's coming. He gets far enough to where, you see me now. I'm here. Now he plays hard to get and goes back, and then he goes back to the way it's supposed to be.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So he said, all right, well, I came my distance. Now I'm sitting over here. And again, he's over spitting and drumming, knowing she can hear him. So he's like, well, that's as good as him sitting over a gobbling 100 times. So, that's why that little Jake I've always had success with, because it kind of trips the trigger to a point of you may have him and you may kill him with nothing, walking up in there cautious looking, but a lot of times they get 80 yards to see that head on that Jake, and then it's like tunnel vision. They're coming to fight, so that's just, I don't know. And a lot of it's been trial and error. Trust me, that's where I've learned most of everything is just trial and error. And it's always worked. So, I mean, until something changes, I'm probably going to keep doing it.
Well, give us a rundown of the vocabulary, please, Phillip Culpepper. When you said spitting and drumming, this is what the boy does. He gobbles, he spits, he drums. You don't happen to have any of your calls by you, do you?
I got some diaphragms in the truck here. Let me hang on one second.
Maybe you can give us a little show for a second, little instruction on what these sound like.
So the spitting and drumming pretty much is just and it's weird because I can't hear gobbling that well. I mean, from a distance, there's no telling how many turkeys I don't hear gobble when I'm hunting by myself. But, people will hear them. It's whatever, it's that pitch and that tone. But the spitting and drumming is a real deep bass sound that a turkey's making with his chest. Just and once you hear it, you'll hear it for the rest of your life. But I've hunted with people, a turkey can be 20 yards doing it, and they can't, it's just that pitch, that tone, they cannot hear, for whatever reasons. It's just those decibels. But let me get don't judge me here. My calls may be locked up on me.
That's all right.
So if you got a turkey sitting on a limb, say you get a turkey roost and you go in there the next morning, my rule of thumb is I'll let him do his thing, gobble a few times, unless when I know it's light enough for him to pitch down, I'm comfortable saying, all right, he can get on the ground. And I'll just do a short little tree yelp, just soft, and I can't even do it on many diaphragms. It's just one like this one that I've had a long time really broke in. The best thing is like a little slate call to do it on. But if he gobbles to that,
do that one more time. Hey, do that one more time, please, Phillip, and turn your head that way, away from your phone. The audio kind of cut out for some reason. And that's just barely tapping your tongue.
That's just barely as soft as you can get it. And like I said, back to what we was talking about earlier, just enough to where he can hear it. Just enough. And if I don't hear any hens with him and he cuts that off and gobbles to that, it's like the old Eddie Salter rule of thumb is throw your call as far as you can. Don't say another word. Just let him. I won't say a word to him until I know he's on the ground.
Wait a minute. You said something there that I have to ask. You said if I don't hear a hen or any hens with him. So when a turkey hunter hits that diaphragm call, he's not just listening for a gobble. He or she is listening for a hen to talk back to you.
Well, and more importantly than that, knowing that, that you got some competition. So, and if you think he's by himself, the next morning you don't hear any hens, he cuts you off, I won't say nothing because I know he don't have any hens with it. So if you hear hens, the rule of thumb's always been try to get them fired up or just replicate the sounds they're making. Just let them take the lead. And at that point, you're trying, if obviously he's got hens, if you get one that's being vocal, you just replicate the sound she's making. And a lot of times she'll come in and she'll bring them right in there to you. Because again, it's tough enough getting a turkey killed off the roost or anytime calling one in because we're reversing nature. But you throw hens in the mix, it makes it a heck of a lot tougher. And again, let's go back, say he's by himself, he cuts that off, he gobbles. Once he gets on the ground and he gobbles, I know he's on the ground. I'll hit him one good time, cut to him one good time to let him know I'm over here, I'm ready, and just let it play out. And a lot of times that's all it takes. The turkey will come right in there to you if he's by himself. So it's and that's the rule of thumb for Easterns. the biggest thing with being successful on these Southern Easterns is not calling too much, but yet knowing when to call and when not to call. So if it's not, you can't really compare it to being out west hunting the Merriams, because if you don't yelp enough out there, a lot of times they'll lose their interest and leave you.
So that cadence that you did just now, that real soft, that's a yelp, 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 yelp.
Little old soft tree yelp, just pretty much saying, "Hey, I'm awake. I'm over here on the limb." That's her pretty much sitting on the limb, just waking up.
Okay. So when I said those sounds of the male vocabulary, is that all of them? The spitting, the drumming, and the gobble?
Obviously, you got spitting and drumming, which is gobbling. The two that a turkey's interested in you are going to be spitting and drumming and gobbling.
Okay.
And then, obviously an alarm putt, a putt is what they do when they're spooked, not sure about something, don't like something, they're leaving. That's the sound you don't want to hear. But if you get one in range and it's just a real high pitch, just if he comes in doing that and he's in range, you better be getting him killed or figuring out a way to get him killed, because the gig's up then. Because that's when they're getting out of town.
So the yelp is the main call that we're going to learn as a turkey hunter to entice a gobbler to come.
If a beginner turkey hunter can learn to yelp and cluck on a box call or a slate call, you can kill turkeys. That's all you know to kill to be. And obviously, it's just like, you can work your way up and obviously get better and more practice. But that's one of the things that I've always tried to tell people not to be intimidated by. Like, well, I'm not a good enough caller. I can't turkey hunt. It's not worth me getting in a turkey hunt and I don't know how to call, because you can literally get on YouTube and watch some videos and just learn to yelp and cluck. And that's all you need, because again, 70% of turkey hunting, in my opinion, is knowing the lay of the land and having woodsmanship to slip around and knowing where to be, how to read turkey signs, scratchings, tracks, strut marks. And obviously the number one rule is you got to have turkeys. You ain't gonna kill them where there's not turkeys. So don't be anybody out there that may be listening who's a beginner or never even tried turkey hunting. You don't have to do it for 20 years to be successful at turkey hunting. It's a sport. Like you said, it's a fun, in my opinion, the funnest, most, laid back, friendly sports you can have and still be successful and take something home with you.
I love it. So with that diaphragm call, well, you just said before that if you could cluck, you said cluck on a slate or a box call. Can you cluck on a diaphragm call?
Yep. Yeah, you can. It's just for a lot of beginners, diaphragms are a lot more of a,
advanced.
The more it takes more practice, but the beauty of that is you don't have to have any movement. Once you can call on diaphragm, you can be locked down on your gun and you don't have to use your hands for anything. But just a simple cluck. If you can do these two calls, you can kill turkeys.
Wait a minute. Before you do this call though, if I'm a beginner, you just slid that call into your mouth real quick and you keep moving it around. Tell me, how do I know which side goes up against the roof of my mouth when I take this call out of the package without looking at instructions? Let's say it doesn't come with one. And then what are you doing by moving it around? Are you forming it and getting it wet, or what are you doing?
Just pretty much just keeping it moist and just keeping, the main thing is, so we'll go back to the top here. So majority of calls, they'll have a bump on the tape right there at the back, right here. That would be the bottom. But if you'll look at the very top, whatever reeds are cut or formed, the longest reed's going to be on top. So this is a triple reed. I don't know how well you can see it on there.
I can see it.
So the shortest reed's on the bottom, then the medium reed is the middle, and then the top, which has got the cut on it, is the longest reed. That always is going to go up. That's what the air is coming over in between your tongue and that diaphragm to get the sound. So
on that particular call right there, the cut reed is it a clear? Is it a clear?
So that's a lot of your tone and your pitch is a lot of times, that'll be the thinnest reed sometimes, but the different, and that's where call makers obviously make the money, and you get the perfect call because everybody's different. First, number one is you got to learn what cuts you can blow to where if say the way can you see how the cut is on that?
Yep.
So if that was reversed, if this part right here was take that cut and flip flop it, I can't make a sound off of it because that's my natural airflow was coming over this left side. So, but again, it's the main thing is getting about 3 different kind of calls and just experimenting what you can get the best sound out of. And all of them have got, every diaphragm's got certain tension, certain tightness to where everybody's going to be different. So, if you see Michael Waddell blowing a call and you're like, well, man, I can't sound nothing like him on this call. Well, that may not be the call for you. You got to dive into it enough to figure out what the palate of your mouth is like. It's like a fingerprint. The palate of everybody's mouth's different and the airflow is different. So you got to see what airflow you got and what you can get the most sound out. Once you start getting sound out, it's just a matter of replicating that sound you hear to where, like growing up, I would have an old cassette tape of hens yelping, cutting, just calling. It would be a transgression from on the roost to them flying down to them feeding around to where I would just play that over and over and over trying to make that sound. And that's just because it's hard for me to explain how to make a particular sound. It's just a matter of everybody's different. You got to figure out how to get sound out and just replicate that natural voice. So
that material that you're pointing to or that's cut, are all 3 reeds made out of the same material, latex?
No, they're all, some of them can be. This particular call, no, they're all different tensions. And I'll take that back. They're all different thicknesses of latex.
All different thicknesses. Okay, so so this is going to be a latex-based diaphragm call. Now, that bump that you're talking about on the top of the tape right there, you can see it with the human eye because it sticks up a little bit, and it's usually in the shape of a square kind of. You're saying that
right.
that goes, that your tongue is touching that? It goes down?
Right. That's supposed to be the bottom. Now, like I said, there's a few calls I've seen that are made by, you get error, obviously, and that's the upside. So the easiest way to tell it is whichever reed has the cuts goes on the top. Okay, so that's the perfect way to instruct somebody on when they take that call out, how it goes in the mouth. Now, when it goes on the mouth, in the mouth, it sits on your tongue, and then you kind of have the roof of your mouth shaped like this for people watching on YouTube. Then that call's in between your tongue and the roof of your mouth. So is my tongue shaped like that where the tip of it is like anchored down behind my bottom teeth? Or how is my tongue shaped? And then where is that call in accordance to my tongue? Is it back towards the back, or is it more towards the front of towards my mouth? I just lay that call right on my tongue. And I don't do anything different on my tongue except, you just put pressure of it up around the roof of your mouth and get that sound, or that call just lays up there. And you just put pressure at the top, and it's just getting a sound out. If you can get that beginning, just that. And then what you want to do is drop your jaw to create that yell. And again, it's the main thing that I even learned growing up trying to figure out how to use a diaphragm was finding a call that you can make sound on, that you can somewhat control, and just whoever you're living with is probably going to drive them crazy. But you got to just be committed to listening to that sound and using that call and different calls to figure out how to make those different pitches and sounds and to get that cadence down, because nobody has to be a world-class turkey caller to kill turkeys. It's just a matter of getting the cadence down and the volume down. That's the top 2 and most important things, turkey calling.
Okay, so give me the now the call goes in, the longest reed is up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now you're just going to apply some pressure with your tongue, and now this is going to be just that long note that you started with, that, and then you're just starting to cut that off, right?
Right. You want to cut it off. Just practice cutting it off and dropping your jaw simultaneously. So when you're dropping your jaw, it's creating that rollover, that cow.
And that's I'm getting one right now. I got to try this. Hold on 1 second. You keep going. I'm going to try to get one in here.
Like I said, just yelping and clucking is all you need to kill turkeys.
That's all you need.
I mean, obviously, yeah, you can. I mean, the more you practice and the more you can do it helps you out on striking turkeys and finding turkeys, because like we talked about afternoon stuff, unless the turkey's just really, really fired up, you got to get pretty excited with them to get them cranked up going, knowing when to answer you. But when you're in position on a turkey, it's just this yelping and clucking and volume control is all you need. Just learning not to yell at them every time you call. You just got to be able to tone it back.
So when you're doing that with your tongue, do you teach somebody to say, I don't know if you just mentioned this, but do you teach a word, or I'm trying to picture that in my mouth. It's like shook, shook.
Oh yeah. And I've never done it that way because I was so bad when I started, and it's like I feel like the way I started and read everything about saying words, like, man, that's nothing like what I call like now.
So that's exactly how it starts in duck calling too. Everybody tries to teach you hut, 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 or hoot, hoot, hoot. And then when you really break it down, you're not saying any words. You're almost like you got punched in the gut. You got no air. You got no air left in your diaphragm, and you're trying to whisper to somebody, but you're like panicking, like, get me some.
And because when you're blowing a turkey call, it's the same way. It's got to come from your chest, from your diaphragm. You can't have your mouth full of air blowing calls out there. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but to me, the most important thing of it coming from your diaphragm is control. You have control of that air to where it's not just filling your mouth up air and blowing it out through a duck call. It's just like a grunt call with deer. So, and again, it's just practice and listening to that sound and figuring out what call you can make sounds on to try to replicate that. And again, to even get started is figure out what you can get a little bit of sound out of and what can be volume controlled, where you can make it louder, but you can go real soft with it.
Because that in tight calling is huge, because it could come down to that, where if you do, like what you said, talking to that guy across the lake, if you hammer on them too hard, they're going to know the game's up, right? But you have to get intimate, right, Culpepper?
Well, yeah. You got to sex it up, man. You got to be sexy with them. So, it's like it's like yelling at somebody, but anybody that's ever been close to turkeys and listened to them, you'll be amazed at what this little bit how soft a hen can yell. They can be 20 yards and you can barely hear them, And so it's just a matter of gearing it down and being soft. And it's just like, everybody who's ever turkey hunted, they always got that one turkey that gobbles from a mile off. When you got to think, if he hears you from that far off from you calling, do you think he can't hear you when he's 100 yards? So, it's just a matter of getting in their head and playing hard to get with.
Yeah. It's to be able to sex it up, as you say, or to be able to create the confidence in your calling ability. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be a world champion, but if you can, like what you said, learn volume and cadence,
100%.
That's everything in game calling, whether it's elk or coyote or ducks or geese. It's everything. So I'm going to try this.
See, that's all you need. And the main thing about yelping too, when I try to explain to people is have a beginning and an end. Don't some people will start as it's more of a to where it all just runs together, and then from a distance it runs together even more. Have a and that's just a one-tone yelp to where you just have a beginning and a definite ending to it, to where it's not just because you never hear a turkey because there's some bad sounding hens out there to where they're not just, but those bad sounding hens, they all have a cadence and a volume, every one of them.
Can you hear all that?
Yeah, that's it. That's all you need. Don't come to Florida where we're hunting. I don't want you killing these turkeys till we get out of here.
Uh-huh. I'm going to try there.
At least you can gobble. I can't even gobble.
Does that sound like a gobble?
Yeah, it doesn't. You'd be surprised how good that would work. Again, the more distance you get from it, all the calls, even somebody's like, man, they don't have any pitch to or tone. But when you get a little bit of separation from being right there on it, a lot of calling sounds a lot better than you think.
Yeah, because that's when you tell somebody when they're practicing calling is you can't hear it. The sound is coming out of your mouth and your ears aren't picking up the exact, authentic, true sound of what you're replicating or reproducing. The best way to do it is to record yourself and then 100%. Listen, right? And then play it back, because it's almost impossible to hear it as it comes out of your mouth.
Oh, 100%, and that's, I do that a lot of the times. I'll set my phone and record across the kitchen when I'm trying new calls and stuff. Just to get that, like you say, a second angle of hearing it, because, and again, the true sound of it, because it's tough, especially if you're going through a bunch of calls and it's like, man, you're about tone deaf. By then you can't tell what pitch you got, what you're doing, to where, that, and then you kind of remove yourself from it too. You can do that. If you got 3 different calls, record it and go back, the next day and listen to it.
Give me the percentages of your calling per call. Do you strike with a box? Do you ever use a slate when you're sitting there, or are you 100% diaphragm?
No, my top 2 call diaphragm and a box call. When we're running and gunning and we're trying to strike a turkey, I use a box call most of the time, unless it's a dead calm day and I can really get some carry with that diaphragm. Because my favorite thing to do is striking with a box, because it reaches out there so much, especially in the wind. And then once you get a turkey struck, then you can sit down with the diaphragm and really kind of finesse them and work them, because I can get a lot softer. But, off the roost the same way when it's pretty calm and everything, I'll try to get them going with the diaphragm, and because I can have so much more finesse, I feel like, with that than I do with a box.
Huh. What's that sound, Phillip?
That's a hen just cutting.
That's a cut. Okay, so when do I use that? And that seems like
that gets back to what I was talking about. Let me grab this diaphragm. Like whenever you're trying to strike a turkey, and another learning tip on that is, a lot of people, when they hear those excited hens cut, they try to run them together again, like we was talking about the yelp, and it's, instead of perfecting, and Michael taught me this years ago, instead of perfecting just the note that it is itself, when a hen normally cuts 6-7 times, just tut, 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 everybody tries to put that together, and it's all kind of just slurred together, to where in reality, a cut's just a 1-1-2 punch. Just pop, 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 just perfect that, and then go back and put it together into a sequence of cutting, if that makes sense. To where it's not, you're not trying to to bite off more than you can chew from the get go, and because it's just that's not what hens do. They're doing those 1-1-2 notes and putting them in a series together, just a real fast series.
Oh, okay. Give me a sample. Turn your head though. Turn your head though.
So that series of cutting is just a pop, 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 but they're just condensed together to where it's not a 7-note call, pop, 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 to where, again, especially when you're learning to call like that, a lot of people, and I was the same way growing up, you get discouraged because you're like, man, there ain't no way I'll ever be able to do that. But if you really break it down and dissect it, it's just a 2-note call that's just being put together back to back to back.
Oh, a 2-note call.
Yeah, it's just so that's the call. But then when you hear a hen that's getting excited, but again, like I said, it's just a 2-note pop pop. Just perfect that before you start trying to run them together.
Okay, so my last question on that cut is that's something, because you made a comment before that if you get him fired up and gobbling on just the yelp, let it go. But if you don't get something, is the call you might go to get him fired up and to try to finally get him to gobble? Will they gobble on a cut most of the time? Yeah. That's and again, that's a different scenario. Like I was talking about, like, off the roost. You play as hard to get as you can if he's gonna cut you off. Okay.
And the after you get him going, again, if you strike him and then test the waters, because again, every turkey's different. Or test the waters to see. You want to get by with as little calling as you can. So, but at the same time, if a turkey like the one we killed the other day, if he's fired up and going. A lot of people I've seen, me and Drake were talking about it, was they'll call to get them to gobble. They'll just check them and get them to gobble. But my thing I like to do if a turkey's fired up cutting you off is I'll yell back to him right after he gobbles, because it's a conversation you're having with him. If he cuts me off gobbling, I'm gonna even if it's a 2 or 3 note yelp back to him to let him know that I'm talking to him versus just trying to get him to gobble to see where he's at. So every turkey's different to where. You gotta. It's just a trial and error deal. You don't want to call too much. It's always safe to call less, but sometimes you do have to. If he goes silent for a while, you do have to get a little bit excited to let him know that you're wanting to come over there.
Matt, I guess the only thing left to do. There's a lot that goes into turkey hunting. Their eyesight's unbelievable. They said if a turkey could smell, you'd probably never kill one. Their vision is that of a Rocky Mountain elk. Patience is huge. It's a game to where you gotta hide very well. You gotta be patient. You gotta understand how to use your eyes and not have your head on a swivel all the time. Because after they kind of pinpoint that sound, just like a coyote or a bobcat, they're gonna be on you and they're gonna spot you probably a lot sooner than you see them coming potentially if you're moving a lot. I guess the only thing really left to do, though, once you get to this point of hitting that call right and having that semi-strut Jake in there and you have that Tom's attention, now it just comes down to the final stage before we let you go, Phillip. Have you caught on to this 410 TSS phase? Are you a 20 gauge guy? Are you a 12 gauge guy still? And do you still believe in what I talked to you and Tyler Farr about one day, that turkeys are an animal that were born to be killed with a shotgun and not a bow and arrow?
I'm a 12 gauge guy. The TSS, yes, I do like the TSS to where you can reach out there and touch them if you have to. But I would every day of the week, and I would do it on the 8th day if there was the 8th day of a week. I would rather have them at 2 feet with kill them with a shotgun than shoot them with a bow.
I love it. That's
they're meant. If you're gonna kill them, you will debeak them. The way I look at it.
Yes, sir. I agree 100%. There's just some animals that were put on earth if you're going to hunt them to be killed with a gun. I'm not saying that archery hunting's awesome, but a duck, a goose, and a turkey, you need to be shot with a shotgun.
Right. That would be if me and you met at turkey camp and you showed up with your bow, you'd get the same reaction as if I showed up meet you at the duck hole with the bow.
I love it, man. I love when I see people doing it and I make that remark and they're like, oh man, you don't know, it's challenging. I'm like, I'm not saying it's not challenging. It's just not right. But to each their own. That's what's great about this. So what are you doing? What were you going to say? Were you saying something?
I killed one turkey with a bow and that was enough. And I did it just to kind of check it off the list. I'm back. I got 2 guns right here in this deck lid right behind me. So we're about to go get them and hopefully bust one.
How smooth are those decked?
Man, I love them. Golly.
They're the coolest.
Foreign to me this past year, but once I got to using it, it's unbelievable.
They are awesome. So you're in Florida right now, and you're you're still after Osceolas.
Yes, sir. I got 1 tag left, and then we got Michael Pitts is coming in tonight, and he's never killed Osceola, so we got a few tags to fill. But yeah, we're still down here, and this will be the last Osceola endeavor till next year.
And so you're about to have a crazy camp life pretty soon here with Pitch rolling in, huh?
If he can find it, yeah. I can tell you, if he don't find it, he stops somewhere to ask for directions, they're going to know he's lost because they're going to know he ain't here.
Is he, are y'all hunting this afternoon?
Yeah, we're going to go out here in just a little bit, probably. That's why I got all my camo on. So we're going out here shortly, and then, at least maybe kill one tonight. If not, hopefully get something ready. So
are you going to be up at Tyler's at all?
Yeah, I'm going to go up there. I'm actually we're leaving from here and going up for the DNR's doing a youth hunt up there. We're going to go up there and hunt.
What day are you going to be in Tennessee?
We're leaving here. We will be there Thursday afternoon.
Are you going to be there for the opener too?
No, I'm coming home for Easter, and then I'm going to try to go back up there if I can that next week.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you off camera and off microphone about that next week, and see if we can't hang out a minute. I'm gonna be in the area.
Need to try to go. The turkeys are there, so they need killing.
All right. I'll text you tonight when you're out of the woods, and I'm gonna tell you where my plans are when I'm gonna be in your area, and then we'll see if we can hook up.
Sounds good, buddy.
That's Phillip Culpepper, one of the coolest dudes in the hunting industry. Tell us about the new show real quick.
Yeah, man. So I started this past summer, this fall. So the name of the show is Hunt Club with Phillip Culpepper, and I got my dad involved, Michael Pitts, 2 of my good buddies back home, Nate Thomas and Chris Cheeseburger Staten. So we all call him Cheese, but it's pretty much just us hunting around the house, taking a few trips here and there. It's most all of it self filming, just some good old boys just sharing passion, having fun, and trying. Deer.
Well, we got to film together, buddy, and get on a hunt.
We need to do it. I'm gonna have to get you a Hunt Club hat. We need to do an episode next year.
I'll give you my address, or I'll tell you when I'm gonna be around there next week, and maybe we can hook up.
Absolutely, buddy. We need to get some trips on the books, and maybe we can kill a turkey, and we'll talk about some stuff for this fall.
Heck yeah, I can't wait. That's Phillip Culpepper, Hunt Club TV. It's on the Realtree 365 app, correct?
Yes, sir. And YouTube.
He is the man. Check him out all over Instagram. What's Instagram?
My Instagram is at Culpepper Jr. And the Hunt Club's Instagram is at Hunt Club TV.
All right. This episode's been brought to you by Gerber. Stay sharp, America. Tell Pitts hello for us. My man, thank you so much, Culpepper.
Thank you, buddy. I'll be sure to tell him.
I'll talk to you soon. Tom, Jake, hit that button. This song is called My Foul Life by 2 AM Logic. Y'all be safe out in the turkey woods.